She may not stay for the whole thing. That often happens anyway, even when she's at home. So
It's not because I don't love y'all. With the poems.
could you just hum taps for us?
You probably can't hear it.
Oh, just apparently there's a tradition. Cindy just told me about it this evening. I didn't know about it. That all across the country at 3 p.m., whatever the local time is, people get out their instrument and play taps. And some do it online. Cindy's friend Peggy Johnson does it online. She plays it on the trumpet, and another friend of Cindy's plays it on the violin. So I just asked Cindy to hum it. Have we got everybody muted? I don't hear anybody.
Well, they got muted again. What happened here? Do you leave your chat open?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
I'll fix all that. Oh, whoops, sorry. No, I don't have the mute. Participants. Mute all. There we go. All right, y'all can unmute now.
Okay, now we're unmuted.
Sorry about that. Let me fix it.
Sorry, we didn't go to do it. I didn't. Now that.
Is that, do you want this brought over?
Yeah, please. Yeah, so everybody's bigger.
Yeah.
There we are.
Is that good?
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Now
Okay.
we can hear you.
Okay, very good.
I don't know whether you could hear us or not, but
Yes, we could. I could.
okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I heard about that 3 o'clock tax thing. I wasn't around to tune in, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is a nice thing to do. It's an interesting thing to do.
And very
And-
nice humming, Cindy. That
Oh,
was nice.
thank you.
Well, Cindy is herself a musician, of course.
I know it.
And that is, the voice is an instrument.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell brother I cannot? Oh, that's old. Oh, Rochelle, you still can't? Here. I don't know what's going on. Ask to unmute. Close that. And I don't know why this is happening.
Hello.
There we go. There you are, Stephen. There
yeah.
you are, Rochelle.
I'm muted now. Namaste.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now Heidi is muted.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here? And now
Yeah,
Stephen.
You unmuted me, Cindy, and then I muted again, and I couldn't unmute myself. It said the same thing. The host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves.
So we have to stay unmuted if we want to
Wait
talk,
a minute.
right? And not go mute and back again. Yeah.
I see you, Stephen. I'm gonna. This is a settings thing. I don't understand why it's doing this. Have you ever had this problem before?
Never.
No.
This is really weird. My names. Hi. This is in.
It's probably because Mercury's retrograde.
I was just going to say that.
Very likely.
Okay. Oh. Ask all to unmute. Oh, I see. Okay. Now you all should be able to mute and unmute yourselves. See if it's working.
Stephen, would you unmute yourself and say a word?
It's working.
Yes,
Okay.
that's working.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
All
unmuted.
right.
you.
Here we all are. And definitely, I think it's Mercury retrograde.
Of the Gemini moon.
There was apparently a Gemini moon. It also has to do with Mercury, of course. So, Jillian, would you be so kind as to read because he gave birth?
Oh, what page are we on since I've missed a few weeks?
It says page 31.
Page 31.
Yeah, we're doing St. Francis of Assisi.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Okay. Because he gave birth. So precious is a person's faith in God, so precious. Never should we harm that. Because he gave birth to all religions. Because he gave birth. So precious is a person's faith in God, so precious. Never should we harm that. Because he gave birth to all religions.
Which is an unusual thing for a Catholic to say, we'd have to agree, I think. But certainly St. Francis of Assisi was not your garden variety Catholic.
And Richard Rohr, who is a Franciscan monk, would agree.
Yes, oh yes, the universal Christ. And not that there's anything whatsoever wrong with garden variety Catholics. I didn't mean to be dismissive, but most of them have been taught in catechism just the opposite of this. So it's a shame that that is taught, but it's wonderful that St. Francis of Assisi says this. And it's a message that comes through every one of these 12 saints in one way or another. That there are no limitations on God's grace. And of course, the message from St. Francis of Assisi is to his fellow Catholics, or at least to whoever was listening, is that you mustn't tell people that their religion is not worthy. You must not harm them, which is, of course, a perfect example of what in Sanatana Dharma, the real name for what is commonly called Hinduism, it's the prime directive: do no harm. Anything else from anyone about this poem?
To me, it was kind of a surprise. I didn't expect that that's where the poem would go. Just because it is written by St. Francis of Assisi, who was Catholic. The first two stanzas sort of set up, don't harm a person's faith in God. And I did not expect it to go the way that it did in the third stanza. I think that's kind of beautifully done. I think it should be a little bit of a jolt. That
yes, indeed, it should be, and there, all of these saints have that kind of wry sense of humor, and sometimes even ribald sense of humor, but they all are looking for that little jolt, as you put it. I like that. Anything else from anyone? Okay. Oh, talk about humor. Heidi, would you read When I Returned from Rome?
Yes, I'd be glad to. When I returned from Rome, a bird took flight, and a flower in a field whirled at me as I passed.
Whistled.
Whistled at me as I passed. I drank from a stream of clear water, and at night the sky untied her hair, and I fell asleep, clutching a tress of gods. Let me read that again. I drank from a stream of clear water, and at night the sky untied her hair, and I fell asleep, clutching a tress of gods. When I returned from Rome, all said, "Tell us the great news." And with great excitement I did. A flower in a field whistled, and at night the sky untied her hair, and I fell asleep clutching a sacred tress. When I returned from Rome, a bird took flight, and a flower in a field whistled at me as I passed. I drank from a stream of clear water, and at night the sky untied her hair, and I fell asleep clutching a tress of gods. When I returned from Rome, all said, "Tell us the great news." And with great excitement I did. A flower in a field whistled, and at night the sky untied her hair, and I fell asleep clutching a sacred tress. Oh, that's so beautiful. But yes, you think he's gonna, tell about, I don't know, all the sacred revelations, and of course he does. But
Correct.
that is where he connected, with the animals and with nature. And so to him, that was just as profound as perhaps what,
All the other monks at the monastery wanted to know all the scuttlebutt from Rome.
right.
All the happenings at the Vatican, who was in, who was out, all that stuff. And none of that concerned
No,
Francis at all.
not at all.
None of it at all. And
I think it was very difficult, excuse me, for any Catholic or Western mystic to diverge from his church and become enlightened, because they had no place anymore in the church, and yet people revered them and they made them saints ultimately, but they had to go off by themselves and sometimes start a new order, and they couldn't communicate in the Orthodox way anymore. And I know that St. Francis became a semi-hermit until he started his order, but I don't think it was easy for any of them finding their way in Orthodox Catholicism when they had received enlightenment.
no, but what is so remarkable about it when he did, and it's told in the little biography, it's at least it's gestured at how it happened. He really did develop this. I think we can take him very literally when he says a flower whistled at him, and that he fell asleep clutching a sacred tress.
Absolutely.
These are not just metaphors. They are not, I don't think they are. Of course, they're metaphorical in the sense of God having hair that could fall from the sky. But I think he's telling us the truth as it arose for him.
What is real anyway?
Yes, exactly. What is real anyway?
Mm-hmm.
What we perceive. That's the only, if we're going to be truthful, the only thing that is real for us is what we perceive, what we experience. The rest of it is all what somebody else said or wrote or put on film.
And he's perceiving this as a mystic,
Oh, yes,
right?
very profoundly so. Well, if you read the little biography that Ladinsky wrote at the beginning, we see that St. Francis of Assisi was a very interesting personality. As a teenager, he was a party boy. And this was true of St. St. Teresa of Avila also. She was a party girl when she was a teenager. So much so that they sent her away to a convent. But what happened with St. Francis is that he got enthralled with the romance of medieval chivalry. And so he became a knight. And he fought for his town, Assisi, against Perugia, was captured and so on. And then he went on a crusade. But it was when he was on this crusade that he had some visions of Christ that convinced him that this was not the way for him to go. And so when he came back, as Rochelle pointed out, he became a recluse, spent a lot of time alone. And it's when he had this experience sitting in an abandoned and dilapidated little chapel, the Christ on the crucifix came alive and said to him, "Francis, you see my house has come to ruin. Please repair it for me." And so it was gathering together those young men that he gathered to help him repair this that became the genesis of his order. And when there were 12 of them, himself and 11 more, that's when he went to Rome. They conceived among themselves that they would like to start a monastic order. And so he went to Rome and with a petition to recognize their group as an order. And at first the Pope would not see him. I mean, he didn't even know about his presence. The gatekeepers just said, "Go away, go away." The people who had controlled access to the Pope. And then the Pope had his own vision and was commanded by Christ to not only see Francis, but that there was this man there named Francis, that he was to see him and to recognize his order. That's the story of how the Franciscans got started.
Oh.
And then his sister, Claire, started an order also called the Poor Clares. So quite an interesting story, Francis. Anything else from anyone about this particular poem? Okay. Rochelle, do you have the book open in front of you?
No, I don't, and I do not know which book you're using, but I can have
It's called Love Poems from God. That's the title, Love Poems from God. The interpreter, he doesn't call himself a translator. The interpreter of these poems is a man named Daniel Ladinsky, Ladinsky, who has a very interesting biography himself. He lived with a group of people in India, followers of Meher Baba, who is said to be one of the reincarnations of Christ. And he lived with them for a long time. This particular group, when he was working on this book for 7 years. Well, Cindy, you're sitting over my shoulder. Can you read this poem?
Sure. Okay. He asked for charity. God came.
I'll do it.
Do what?
Change it when you get to the.
I can do it.
All right.
He asked for charity. God came to my house and asked for charity. And I fell on my knees and cried, "Beloved, what may I give?" "Just love," he said, "just love." He asked for charity. God came to my house and asked for charity. I fell on my knees and cried, "Beloved, what may I give?" "Just love," he said, "just love."
Mm.
And of course, this is the message that has been given to Christian mystics, Padre Pio, Julian of Norwich,
John Prine.
and John Prine. Okay, I didn't know that John Prine was such. But
has this-
even Bob Dylan's new album, new 2 years old, but even Bob Dylan's new album has this message in it. He said, "If I had the wings of a snow white dove, I would go and preach your gospel of love." I think it's a paraphrase, but it's close to what his lines are in that song. And he wrote a song called "I've Made Up My Mind to Give Myself to You," that is as deeply mystical a song as you're going to hear from a modern singer-songwriter.
John Prine, it just made me think of the song. John Prine has a song called "Only Love," and the chorus is "Only love, love only love will do."
And of course, the Beatles song, "All You Need
All
Is
you
Love,"
need is love.
Mhm.
which is a message directly, you can say, from the Maharishi,
Mhm.
who turns out to be an extraordinary critter himself. Jerry Brunner, one of the people who is part of this congregation, although not, we don't see him much in our meetings, but I see him practically every Friday for breakfast. He was a teacher of transcendental meditation and was very close to the Maharishi. And the Maharishi was, this was what he taught also, that he was trying to promote that if you chanted the mantra, if you practiced transcendental meditation, you would come to love spontaneously. Anything else about this poem from anyone?
May I say, brother, that last Sunday, I believe it was, you read a poem that I think Daniel Ladinsky had in his book from Mother Teresa of Avila, Saint Teresa of Avila. Is that, it was,
No, not this last Sunday. This last Sunday, I read John Lennon's Imagine.
it was the one.
Yeah, before that, yeah. And
That was
I
the
don't-
moving
I-
poem.
the Sunday before that, I sang Peter Ustinov's Nichevo, 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 which is just was a funny way of talking about the fact that the Advaitins, the nominally atheistic wing of Vedanta, have no songs.
Yeah.
And but there have been things from Saint Teresa of Avila. It's true.
And I think it was Daniel Ladinsky who had translated it or brought it to.
Yes, that's right. It
And
appears in his book.
It was probably the most powerful poem I have ever been exposed to. I couldn't take it in, and I can't find it online.
Is it Every Prophet's Name?
Yes, that's
Oh, I
it.
love that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
We'll get to that when we get to her in
Yeah,
this.
that's in this book.
Yeah, that's in this book.
Oh, I'm gonna have to get that book. Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, one of the things that struck me again, since we can't imagine that Francis would in any way fudge the truth. He says, God came to my house and asked for charity, asked for alms. Bah. You know? This is, and I fell on my knees and cried, Beloved, what may I give? Just love, he said, just love. And of course, if you read the testimony of Julian of Norwich, that's exactly what she says as well. Just exactly what she says. That's all Christ wanted from her. You know, she was doing all these austerities. He says, oh, stop it, stop it. It's all about love.
I'm gonna go home and sign back in.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you at home.
Shankar, that first line I read in two ways. One, that this was truly God, but also all throughout the Bible, Jesus talks about, you know, and many other places too, you know, whoever comes to your door asking, you know, the poorest of the poor, the sickest of the sick,
Right,
you know, see me in them.
right.
And
Serve
so-
them as me, right.
Serve them as you would serve me. And so I heard that in that first line too, that, you know,
Beautiful.
he's not even seeing the person. He sees right away that this being in front of his door, you know, whatever they are, hungry, tired, ill, in rags, is God.
Beautiful, beautiful, Julie. What a wonderfully, that is I think a perfect reading of this. Now this next poem, I'm going to read it myself. It's maybe one of my favorite poems in the whole book. A kind face. Joy is the greatest cleanser, and it is the greatest testimony to our faith. Toil with happiness, my Lord once said to me. God sent a servant on an errand through a dangerous part of the world. The servant, having received in hand what God wanted delivered, turned to the holy and said, my beloved master, do you have any final instruction? And God replied, a kind face is a precious gift. A kind face. Joy is the greatest cleanser, and it is the greatest testimony to our faith. Toil with happiness, my Lord once said to me. God sent a servant on an errand through a dangerous part of the world. The servant, having received in hand what God wanted delivered, turned to the holy and said, my beloved master, do you have any final instruction? And God replied, a kind face is a precious gift. Now you talk about reading things in two ways. The delivery person is given the gift of a kind face to go into this dangerous part of the world with. And then they are able to give that as a gift. But it's a precious gift of the Holy One, of the Holy, to give you a kind face.
Mm.
That's how I read that.
Mm-hmm.
And it resonates with me so many times during a week. Just receive that gift of a kind face and present that. Offer that. Anything else from anyone about this remarkable poem? And, you know, we read this throughout the scriptures of all the great traditions, that when he says that joy is a testimony to our faith, yes, that is true. When the heart center opens, joy spontaneously radiates. And that doesn't mean we'll be joyous every minute of every day, but it becomes a predominant mode and cleanser.
Mhm.
Joy, the greatest cleanser. Ba, 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 ba. Sends that dirt right down the drain. Ba, 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 ba. I don't know if you two remember, or any of you remember that jingle. It was for the product Ajax. Joy is the greatest cleanser. Ba, 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 ba. Anyway, I'm being silly. Anything else from anyone before we go on to the next poem? Stephen, do you have the book? Stephen?
No, I don't, brother. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I don't.
Okay. Well, there's no need to be sorry. We're glad to have you with us, but I was just going to ask you to read this next one. But so I'll ask Jillian if she will read the Holy Water.
Okay, this is a long one. Oh my gosh, a very long one. The holy water. No one lives outside the walls of this sacred place, existence. The holy water, I need it upon my eyes. It is you, dear you, each form. What mother would lose her infant? And we are that to God, never lost from his gaze are we. Every cry of the heart is attended by light's own arms. You cannot wander anywhere that will not aid you. Anything you can touch, God brought it into the classroom of your mind. Differences exist, but not in the city of love. Thus, my vows and yours, I know they are the same. I have just peeled the skin from the potato, and you are still contemplating its worth, sweetheart. Indeed, there are wonderful nutrients in all, for God made everything. You joined our community at birth. With your father being who he is, what do the world's scales know of your precious value? The priest and the prostitute, they weigh the same before the sun's immaculate being, but who can bear that truth and freedom? So a wise man adulterated the scriptures. Every wise man knows this. My soul's face has revealed its beauty to me. Why was it shy so long? Didn't it know how this made me suffer and weep? A different game he plays with his close ones. God tells us truths you would not believe, for most everybody needs to limit his compassion. Concepts of right and wrong preserve the golden seed until one of God's friends comes along and tends your body like a divine bride. The holy sent out a surveyor to find the limits of its compassion and being. God knows a divine frustration whenever he acts like that, for the infinite has no walls. Why not tease him about this? Why not accept the freedom of what it means for our Lord to see us as himself? So magnificently sovereign is our lover. Never say, on the other side of this river, a different king rules. For how could that be true? For nothing can oppose infinite strength. No one lives outside the walls of this sacred place, existence. The holy water my soul's brown needs is unity. Love opened my eye, and I was cleansed by the purity of each form. Should I read it again?
Oh, please. And this This is a sermon. This is a homily.
Mm.
This truly and truly is a homily of St. Francis, and it is gorgeous. I mean, please do read it again.
Okay.
And just take your sweet time with it. No reason for us to hurry at all.
Okay. The holy water. No one lives outside the walls of this sacred place existence. The holy water, I need it upon my eyes. It is you, dear, you, each form. What mother would lose her infant? And we are that to God. Never lost from his gaze are we. Every cry of the heart is attended by light's own arms. You cannot wander anywhere that will not aid you. Anything you can touch, God brought it into the classroom of your mind. Differences exist, but not in the city of love. Thus, my vows and yours, I know they are the same. I have just peeled the skin from the potato, and you are still contemplating its worth, sweetheart. Indeed, there are wonderful nutrients in all, for God made everything. You joined our community at birth. With your father, capital F, with your father being who he is, what do the world scales know of your precious value? The priest and the prostitute, they weigh the same before the sun's immaculate being. But who can bear that truth and freedom? So a wise man adulterated the scriptures. Every wise man knows this. My soul's face has revealed its beauty to me. Why was it shy so long? Didn't it know how this made me suffer and weep? A different game he plays with his close ones. God tells us truths you would not believe. For most everyone needs to limit his compassion, capital H, his compassion. Concepts of right and wrong preserve the golden seed until one of God's friends comes along and tends your body like a divine bride. The holy sent out a surveyor to find the limits of its compassion and being. God knows a divine frustration whenever he acts like that, for the infinite has no walls. Why not tease him about this? Why not accept the freedom of what it means for our Lord to see us as himself? I'm going to read that again. Why not accept the freedom of what it means for our Lord to see us in him as himself? So magnificently sovereign is our lover. Never say, on the other side of this river, a different king rules. For how could that be true? For nothing can oppose infinite strength. No one lives outside the walls of this sacred place existence. The holy water my soul's brow needs is unity. Love opened my eye, and I was cleansed by the purity of each form.
This is a mystical Sermon on the Mount.
Mm-hmm. I love that in a multitude of different ways, he's saying the same thing, that we are not separate from God, that God is in everything, and there are no everything. The potato, everything from the potato to the king across the river. and the priest and the prostitute, that God is in everything.
Every form.
Mhm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes, it is. Anything else from anyone about this remarkable poem?
Well, I also picked up too from, I love that stanza about the potato.
Yes.
Mhm.
Indeed, there are wonderful nutrients in all, for God made everything. So I hear him saying too that, like Jillian said, you know, God is in everything, of course, but also that we are more alike than we are different.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
My vows and yours are the same,
Mhm.
regardless of whether you're a monk like him or not. You were born into our community, the community of the divine children,
Mhm.
regardless of your status.
And he has a little dig at the formal church. A wise man adulterated the scriptures.
Right.
So the scriptures being this love and unity from his point of view, but that someone came along and messed it up,
Well, made it a state religion.
made it a state religion, right?
So they had to adulterate the scriptures. And, you know, there's been enough scholarship on this now that it's just as clear as day that those canonical gospels were not written by one person each. They were written by many different people, assembled. So that doesn't take anything away from the truths of what Jesus teaches in them. But it certainly does let you know that they were tailored to a purpose. At the Council of Nicaea, I mean, you know, in and around the Council of Nicaea in 300 AD. But, you know, Judas wanted Christ to overthrow the Romans. Christ said, oh, you know, you got it all wrong, Judas. So it took him 300 years, and people like St. Peter and St. Paul, but they overthrew the Romans. Christ overthrew the Romans. They no longer persecuted the Christians. They became them. And of course, nothing in this world will appear to us to be perfect if we have a critical frame of mind. But this is exactly what Francis is telling us in this poem. My eye was cleansed. What are the lines?
Oh, yeah.
Love opened my eye. You know, unity. The word before that is unity. Love opened my eye, and I was cleansed by the purity of each form. And elsewhere, either Francis or somebody else says, how can there be anything imperfect about what God has made, even though it may seem so to us?
Yeah, because in that third stanza that he says, you cannot wander anywhere that will not aid you.
Yes.
You know, you may not like it or you don't understand it at the time, but every turn and every step is just where you need to be.
Right.
Do you know what page? Can you tell me the page? I did find the book online, and I just wanted to know if I could turn to you.
Okay, it's
35,
Oh,
page 35
okay, great. Thank you.
yeah,
in the
that's
hard book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sometimes
if she has a Kindle edition or PDF, it'll be the same.
same, okay. I thought somehow it's a little different, but
Oh, maybe it is.
This is a website that actually just copies books page by page and puts it up for you to read. And
Wow.
yeah, it's called Archive, and you can find the most obscure, wonderful books. I didn't think I would find this book because it's a little newer, but
Mhm.
it's on there. And you said page 35.
and what's the name of that website?
It's called archive.org.
Huh.
And it's not too user friendly, so you're going to go up to the thing that says books and click on it, and two ways of looking at the books will show up, and you can go in either one of them and look for an author or a name. It might be in one and it might not be in the other. So you just kind of go through there and familiarize yourself with it. And it is a vast storehouse of free books to read.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's new to me.
yeah, wonderful.
Before we leave this poem, I just think that it's worth repeating this, the phrase with which he opens the sentence. No one, by this he means no thing. No one lives outside the walls of this sacred place, existence.
Mhm.
Existence itself is the divine.
That's
Of
my
course,
favorite
isn't it?
line, brother.
Hmm?
It's Vedanta. I think it's Vedanta when, he said, where is the demarcation between Brahman and this world? I mean, that's
Exactly. There is none.
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
the most amazingly beautiful statement. It's just a healing statement. It's
Yes.
And he repeats it again at the end to
Yes.
make sure that we get it.
Right. Like I say, this is like St. Francis's mystical Sermon on the Mount. It's all here. I think he did that very much on purpose. It's all here.
And it is in that phrase you just read, Shankar, that is also the quote in his short biography.
Mm-hmm.
The one line, underneath his name.
Uh-huh.
That's
Oh, yes. Yeah.
that's the one there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So pretty profound if they're using that one in his biography, or Ladinsky thought it was too, I guess.
And it's not in the canonical Gospels, but this business, every cry of the heart is attended by light's own arms. It's in the Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas says, the disciple asks him, well, when we're asked who we are, what shall we say? He says, tell them you are the children of the light. And for anyone who hasn't read that, by the way, that is really quite a remarkable book. It's just one saying of Jesus after another, presented as what's called logions. It was found among the Nag Hammadi papers, and it's beautiful. And I love the metaphor. I have just peeled the skin from the potato. In other words, I've revealed the potato to you, and you're still contemplating its worth, sweetheart. Indeed, that's our habit of mind. That's our self-centeredness. What's this worth to me? Indeed, there are wonderful nutrients in all, for God made everything.
And he does, all throughout the poem, he does acknowledge that for many of us, this is not easy.
Oh, it wasn't easy
Right.
for him.
God tells us truths that we wouldn't believe. and that my soul was shy for so long.
Right.
So
Didn't it
yeah.
know it was gonna making me weep and
Mm-hmm.
be in pain?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's not easy. Well, we're eons old. We have a lot of habit of what is now could be termed genetic programming. The stuff that's in our DNA
Mm-hmm.
for survival and for self-aggrandizement and for procreation. The game wants to go on. And he talks about, he says, with his close ones, God plays a different game, and he calls it a game. And he tells us truths you wouldn't believe, and that's also said in the Gospel of Thomas. Christ says something to one of the disciples, pulls him aside and says something to him, and he comes back to the rest of the group, and the rest of the disciples say, "What did he tell you?" And the disciple who was told says, "I can't tell you, because if you did, you'd stone me to death." Because they were, after all, this hardcore Jewish community that Christ was busy. I mean, these were rebellious slaves. We have to remember the Jewish community is made of rebellious slaves. Those were the people that Moses led out of Egypt. And they weren't an easy crowd. He goes up on the mountain to receive the commandments. By the time he gets back down, they've created a wish-fulfilling calf, the Kamadhenu of Sanatana Dharma, the wish-fulfilling cow. They've created this wish-fulfilling calf and are worshiping it like they did in Egypt. And he says, "Oh, you faithless ones." And so, of course, there's this really kind of tough aspect to those people. And there can't be another king on the other side of the river, for nothing can oppose infinite strength. In other words, omnipotence. No one lives outside the walls and not on the other side of the river. It's not a different existence, which was where we started yesterday with Vivekananda's quote, "There cannot be two existences, only one." And thank you for your kind words, Jillian.
You're welcome.
Well, since you now have the book, Rochelle,
Mhm.
can you find and read for us the poem Humility and Compassion, which in this Kindle edition is on page 37.
Is it one sentence?
The title is Humility and Compassion.
Yes, it's one sentence.
Okay, thank you. Can true humility and compassion exist in our words and eyes unless we know we too are capable of any act?
Please read it again. We always read them twice.
Can true humility and compassion exist in our words and eyes unless we know we too are capable of any act?
I'm going to tell a little story. We almost all, I'm sure, if not all of us, know Fred Rogers of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And Mr. Rogers would greet everyone with the phrase, "I like you just the way you are." Whether it was a 4-year-old holding a toy gun, or the President of the Senate of the United States, or I suppose the President of the United States, although I don't know that. That's how he greeted everyone. And that, because I couldn't doubt his sincerity, For years, literally, I wondered how could he say this to everyone with sincerity until I read this little poem of St. Francis of Assisi's. Whether he ever read these words, he knew this truth. He likes everyone just the way they are because he too knew that he was capable of anything that they might be or do.
Mhm.
And if he was going to like himself, which clearly he did, he had to like them too, just the way they were. So this poem was like a light bulb in a dark room going, suddenly lighting up when I read it. Oh, that's why Fred Rogers can say that.
Mhm.
By the way, I just have a little commercial. If any of you haven't seen the Tom Hanks film, where he is a little
Big.
meditation on Fred Rogers, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Mhm.
It's really splendid. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Tom Hanks, where he plays Fred Rogers. Once Tom Hanks was asked why he was always so nice. He said, well, it makes things easier than when you're not. His answer was very simple. It makes things easier than when you're not. Humility and compassion. Fred Rogers embodied that. And I think this is why. Anyone else have anything to say about this little poem?
I didn't totally understand it till you interpreted it like that, brother. But then I realized that I do have a kind of rule of thumb that it's been with me for a while. And, you know, like no matter what someone's doing wrong, and I really don't care what it is, I am able now to just say, I have done that too. So
Mhm.
I don't care what lifetime it was, or maybe in the future, or this lifetime, but I have done that. So I cannot ever lay blame on them, and it just drops all blame, shame, and regret from the situation. But
Beautifully said,
Mhm.
Rochelle.
and I didn't know that that's what Brother Francis was
Mhm.
saying, but that's I get that now. Yeah.
Beautiful. Shankara, I have to jump because I have something in the oven and I don't want it to burn. So I am
Well,
going
please
to say farewell.
do not let it burn. What time is
Thank
it
you all.
anyway?
So
Oh, we've
we're
still got lots of time.
8:34, so yeah.
Well, farewell, Jillian. So, let's see.
Well, we're 8:34 right now,
Yeah.
so.
Cindy, do you have the book open with you where you are? I think Cindy's listening but not participating. She had things to do when she got home. So Heidi, would you read Always from the Child's Hand?
Sure. So we're going beyond the hour then?
Oh, is it? That's right. It's 8:34. I forgot. It's right. No,
You're on the old time that you're on the 8
right.
to
I'm
9
on the
o'clock.
old time. Right. So it's time to quit.
I mean,
Yes.
I'll continue going on, but you know.
No, you're right. I changed the hour of starting and ending so that I'd get to bed earlier, and that happens to be important tonight, especially because I did not sleep well last night.
Sorry.
So yeah, me too. So that's it then.
Thank you so much, so much for this. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Rochelle, for joining us.
Yes,
And please come every Monday as you please.
yes, I will.
We normally have someone with us that obviously had something else to do on Memorial Day. His name is Jeffrey. He lives in Chicago, and he's a delight to have with us as well.
Great. Great.
So, and Stephen, this is the first time I can remember you joining us. It's on Monday night anyway. So it's good to have you with us.
This is, yeah, my first time to this group, and it's been very uplifting. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the thing about that uplift, since we are one, there is nothing outside this sacred place existence. Since we are the unity behind the appearance, we're all uplifted by one another as we think these thoughts and say these words and read these words. Thanks for reminding me, Heidi. I'd have just plowed right on. And partly because I didn't sleep well last night. I'm a little ditzy. So we'll close with that. And love, 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 love. All you need is love. That's what the Beatles sang. And for those of you who sat and listened to that without me having any distractions, it's really quite remarkable. And let me again give the commercial for Bob Dylan's new album, new, that is June 2020. But he made it when he was 78 to 79 years old. And it's really quite remarkable. Really quite remarkable. The title, which of course reflects his sense of humor, the title is Rough and Rowdy Ways. Rough and Rowdy Ways. You can find the four best songs that are in that album on YouTube, but the rest of the songs that are on the album are worth your time too. Anything else from anybody before we sign off?
No, I'm just a big Bob Dylan fan from way back in my teenage years. So
Me too. Yep.
I can't wait to look it up, brother. Thank you for that.
It was Jillian that actually introduced it to me. She sent me a link to that song. I've made up my mind to give myself to you, which is a truly, I mean, it is a testament to what Bob Dylan has become. I'm giving myself to you, I am, from Salt Lake City to Birmingham, from East LA to San Antone. I don't think I could bear to live my life alone. I'm giving myself to you. Beautiful.
I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that. Mhm.
All right, dears.
Thank you so much tonight.
Thank you.
Good night, dearests.
Good night. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.